Welcome to an SFB Addict video.
SFB Addict here. This is going to be a bit of an odd video, but it was requested. I was asked to make a video on how to set up a game. Okay, so here we go. First, open your module. You might as well do this online. Load up the map that you're going to use for the game. Okay, right now we are in the main room, so let's go into a game room, or make a game room. Okay, so we have our counter window, which is accessible here. And we have our SSDs, which are accessible here. Okay, so what type of game are we going to set up? Okay, well, there's a campaign game going on right now for full Starfleet battles for the Gorn. They've been using the Gorn CA, the Gorn Light Cruiser, and the Gorn Destroyer. So what I'll do is I'll set up a save game for that. Okay. So basically we're going to be building SSDs. We're going to be doing it for the Gorn. So let's become the Gorn player. And we'll go down to Gorn. And we'll grab a Gorn counter. 3 of them, actually. Let's change the image. So I'm doing Alt-N on my keyboard for this. Okay, so that is a heavy cruiser. Battleship, Dreadnought, BCH, CCH, BC/CA light cruiser. That would be a medium cruiser, tug. This would be a war cruiser. That would be either the destroyer or the frigate. And it would be the destroyer. Okay, so those are the 3 counters for it. Okay, now there was another way of doing an SSD, if we're doing a text SSD, and that is to use the counter method. And what you do here is you just right-click, you go down to the Ship System Display, Text SSD, Control-P, and it opens a window. And you basically fill in the systems from your paper SSD. That's one way of doing it, but it's not very graphical. So we're not going to use this method. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Gorn SSD window, and we are going to use the drag and drop menu and the SSD parts. And let's see, we could also go into the SSDs here. We could go to Gorn, and we could grab one of the Dreadnoughts. And what we could do is we could edit down the Dreadnought to represent one of the full-scale ships. Or we could do it with a medium cruiser. So let's take a look here at what the actual ships that we're going to be using are. Okay, so this is the Gorn CA. This is the Gorn CL. And this is the Gorn Destroyer. So let's move this window over. Let's take a look at the Dreadnought. So we've only got one phaser 1 in the front. This one's got two phaser 1s in the front. It's got phasers in the wings. Two in the front, two phasers in the wings. And we get down to small ships. We could also just use a Text SSD using this method, but this looks rather ugly. So let's put a Dreadnought in there. And let's think about this. Well, I don't think we could make a heavy cruiser out of it. We could probably make a light cruiser out of it. But let's start with making a destroyer out of it. Okay, so for this destroyer, there would be no back phaser 1. There'd be 8 warp. Seven shields. Whoops. Click too many times too quickly and your SSD will bounce on you. And 10. 14. Okay, we have only one bridge. Probably one APR if I can find it. Yeah, one APR. The plasma is going to be a G. So let's destroy these two. Only 2 impulse. Eight hull in total. There is, however, 4 shuttles. So, never tried it this way before, so let's see what we can do here. See if we can do a single box and see how that shows up, kind of thing. Nope, it'll fall behind, so we can't do that. We can, of course, just simply make a note of it. So one tractor. This doesn't have a tractor, so we can, of course, again do this. Only 2 transporters. We got 2 transporters. So our front bubble's done. We don't have a probe. 2 lab, 1 APR. Excess dam is 4, but we have 4 shuttles. So we can just simply make a note that 2 of the shuttles are ground assault shuttles. Okay, then we can build the sensor scanner racks. So again, we'll do that with a label. Actually, let's not use that one. Let's use this one. You can put a decimal in front of the leading 0 to make it show up. Okay, so we have our sensor scanner DAMCON. So this is one quick way of doing an SSD. Now, of course, you'll have to ignore certain things. So for instance, it's not a DAMCON 6, it's going to be a damage control rating of 2, because that's what's on the DAMCON rack. And instead of a 1.5 movement cost, it's actually a half-point movement cost. So let's go back to the label, copy that, and we'll put this right. That's right, we can't put it on top, so we got to put it beside it. So half-point move cost. And if we want, we could put a rack for marking off probes. We could do a rack for T-bombs. We could do the same thing for boarding parties. So boarding parties might be useful to do, so let's do that. And we'll do the same thing for crew units, I guess. And on this one, the crew units is 20. So do we have a box at 10? Yes, we do. So there's our 20 crew units. And let's do the probes right beside it. Okay, so the only thing we need to worry about now are the arcs. So it's a left side, it's a right side. and it's going to be an FX number 1. So we need another note. And we now have an SSD that we can click on to represent the Gorn Destroyer. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to build up the SSD from scratch, kind of thing. So let's do that with a light cruiser. So I'm going to move this over to the right, move this over to the left. Now, what we're building is this one. Okay, let's put that there, I guess. Oops, there we go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an outline. And we're going to change it to a Gorn outline. And then we're going to start grabbing some single boxes. So there's our tractor. And then we've got a phaser over here, a phaser over there, a phaser here, and we're going to have a plasma as well. And we have an APR, and we have a transporter, and then we have a probe launcher, and another transporter, and then we've got boxes of 2. So let's do a horizontal one. And this is going to be our emer. Then we're going to do vertical one. So here is our bridge. And we're going to do our labs. And then we're going to do our aft hull. And then we need vertical of 3. I got them labeled backwards. beginning of our shields. So front shield is what? 24. Unfortunately, you can't use the arrow keys to make micro adjustments. So you gotta do the best you can with your mouse to try and line things up, and well, there we go. So we have our 20 front shield. These are what, 18? So do I have something of 6? No, that'll make it 10. I need a 4. No, let's not do it that way. Okay, so that'll be the excess damage. So let's grab a label. And then let's just do the same thing with the sensor. Scanner. And DAMCON. And here we just need to change the numbers. So let's see if we can move the shield over a little bit more. There we go. And we could label it all. So we have our side shields, we don't have our back one. And at that point, we could just leave it as it is. Or we could start filling in labels. As best we can. We are going to run into issues with space and things overlapping. So there we go, 2 of the 3 ships done so far. And the last one was the actual heavy cruiser to do. Okay, well, let's see. Let's try grabbing everything. I don't know if this will work, and let's just see if we can do a copy of the entire thing. And it did copy it. Now we've got to be smart about moving it over. Now hopefully I can just grab it and drag it all as one piece. And I was able to do that. Cool. Okay, well these probes were actually for the destroyer, so we don't need them. I believe these were for the shuttle. And we appear to have Ah, that was the shield. Okay, so that is not going to be a light cruiser this time. This time it's going to be heavy cruiser. Now up here we had no warp engines the way down here we do. So instead of doing an accurate representation, let's start trying to do something a little different. Okay, so, whoops. Okay, so we have battery. And for EPR, we're going to have a single box. The boxes don't like being put on top of the labels. I can understand that. Now, having a single EPR down here and a single EPR up here is accurate, but let's try doing it this way instead. We'll put both of the APR up here, and we'll put two transporter down here, but instead of doing it the vertical, we'll do it horizontal. And instead of doing two hull and two hull for forward hull with two labels, we will just do one label. One box. And the same thing down here. It's not a Picasso. But it's a rough approximation. So it's a little bit better than dealing with this. And it's a little bit better than dealing with that. But at least you have an SSD that you can click on in order to apply damage. Now, one of the key things to remember when you're using this sort of an SSD versus the actual true to the locations of where all the boxes are SSD is that if you're going to be assigning guards to protect systems, you need to just keep in mind that systems that are normally separated on the SSD that have been grouped together can't both be guarded by one guard. So you got to remember that if you've moved the APRs together, you need two guards to guard both, or if you assign one guard to the APR to guard one of the two, you need to designate it as being the top or the bottom APR or the left or the right APR so that you can use the hit and run raid rules properly. Now, going through all of this to build all of the boxes and label all of the boxes, it really isn't necessary if you and your opponent are going to be using paper SSDs. If you're both going to be using paper SSDs, really the only systems that are going to matter to you both are the shields and the weapon mounts. So you can just restrict yourself to just those systems and just track the damage of everything else. But if you want to go through the trouble of building an entire SSD, as you see, it can be done. Now here we did the crew units as boxes. It would probably be better just to use a label and label it crew units 40. But whatever method you choose to use, just have fun playing Starfleet battles.